Hey friends, welcome back to the Finding Joy in Your Home podcast. I am your host, Jamie Balmain, and today we're talking about something that almost all of us, especially those of you watching this or listening to this today, are struggling with right now, and that is grocery budgets. We're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about what our family has been doing to kind of help with rising food costs. We've had to change some things around to be able to still fit in our budget. We are going to talk about that. Lots of fun, practical things. Also, some encouragement for you if you are feeling a little bit discouraged with rising food prices and rising prices on everything right now. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that. I did have a couple of announcements for you before we jump into it. The first announcement is that very, very soon, you are going to start seeing some major changes around here. So I have been talking about this all year, that we have been kind of undergoing not like a rebrand, but a consolidation of all the things we do. We are in a lot of different areas right now online. So we are bringing everything back under the umbrella of findingjoyinyourhome.com. This is my original blog. Actually, it's my second blog, but this is my blog dating all the way back to 2012. And this website is old. And we are completely 100% from the ground up rebuilding it. We are going to be moving our shop onto the same place. Like, everything is going to be in the same place. But in the meantime, you're going to notice like there's some broken links out there. Like, we are working on it. We're in the final stage now, though, of getting it all done, which is really exciting. And we're going to have, with the relaunch of it, we're going to have some really incredible new free courses that are coming out. Baking School with Jamie is finally going to be coming back. We had to take a bit of a break this fall. So many fun things, all these projects that we've kind of been behind the scenes really putting work in that has made us so busy this year. You guys haven't even seen it. It is all coming. So stay tuned for that because it's going to be fun. This whole relaunch is going to be really, really fun. Second quick announcement is that we have our Finding Joy bookstore is open right now for orders through Friday, December 8th. Okay. So what we do is 4 times a year, we open up our shop to do orders for our physical products, for my cookbooks, for Jason's children's book series, for our classic reprints, all of those things that we have in our store. We open up the shop 4 times a year so that we can buy massive quantities of the cookbooks, of these products, and actually be able to deliver them at an affordable price. So we went to try to get a sample. We just needed like a quick sample the same day of my 3rd new cookbook coming out. It's about this size with this many pages, full color. And we went to like Staples to just see if we could get just a sample printed to take pictures of. It was $104. to get a spiral bound full color, like the quality that we get printed. And actually the quality wasn't even near what we actually get printed. So that is why we do this. This is why we collect these pre-orders so that we can offer these at a good price. So if you want a copy this year, our next shop opening will be sometime in Q1. I don't know when though. It could be January to March, sometime in there, probably not January. So if you do want to get any of our physical stuff, and we also have a bunch of Christmas presents, lots of cool things in the shop right now, go to findingjoybookstore.com. It is open through December 8th, shipping in time for Christmas. Okay, those are my announcements. So let's go ahead and dive into this right now. So the grocery store, grocery shopping, prices, every time, and you'd think that I'd be used to this by now, but every time I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, it's so expensive. Like, how is it even more? And I feel like really like spring through early fall of this year was really drastic for me personally. I don't know if, prices I know are different around the country. Places have different prices at different times. But for me personally, that is when I felt like every single time I went to the grocery store, things would be $5, $7, $10 more expensive than the last time I went. Like, this is not slight price increases. This is major price increases. And so I really started looking at, I was just kind of doing my normal grocery shopping for kind of a couple weeks, a couple months, until all of a sudden I was like, I got to start changing some stuff up because we're spending too much. Like, this is getting to be too much for our grocery budget. I need to figure out some different ways to do this. And I know a lot of us are really struggling with that. So I have a few things that I want to chat about today when it comes to grocery budget, and also how do we kind of work on cutting down on prices and all that. So I asked on Instagram yesterday for what questions you guys have around grocery shopping and all this. So I'm going to go through some of those, and I'm also going to kind of just chat about this. So the first question is, do you have a hard and fast grocery budget? So our family does have a hard and fast grocery budget. There have been times where we can pull from a different category and maybe go over a little bit if we need to. In this early spring, late spring, early summer, we were going over too often. And that's when I realized, oh, these prices are here to stay. We need to figure out how to kind of rein this in. But for our family, we do kind of operate under a strict grocery budget. I don't just go to the grocery store and just buy things without thinking how much they're really accumulating. The reason we do that is because we have to budget. We have a very finite amount of money that's coming in, and we have to budget. Now, I will say, okay, another question is how to set a grocery budget based on family size. Like, what do you think is reasonable? So we'll talk about that in a second. But I think she asked the question, what do you think is reasonable? Here's the thing. It's very, very difficult to talk about grocery budgets because our families are all so different. We live in very different parts of the country. We used to live in California, which has some of the highest grocery and just prices in general in the entire country, maybe other than New York City and Hawaii. Now we live in Oklahoma, which has one of the most affordable rates in the entire country. I will tell you something. It makes a really big difference. When I go to Costco and my family who lives in North Carolina, which is also a pretty affordable state, goes to Costco, we have different prices on things. And mine are 9.5 times out of 10 lower than theirs is. So where you live does make a big difference. Also, what your family eats, how your family eats, allergies, all of these things that we're taking into account. Some people do not care one bit about eating healthy. Other people very much want to source out better oils and better organic and all this different stuff. So when we talk about grocery budget, I do not think that there is an ideal. I do not think that there is a number that you are supposed to hit. And what I'm also going to say, some people do not agree with me on this, is that if you can spend more on your groceries, do it, and do it thankfully. There's definitely, we kind of have this idea in our culture that our food should be as cheap as possible, that we shouldn't be spending more money on quality food, that the ideal is to get your grocery budget as low as possible. There are seasons where you have to do that. There are times right now, I do not buy the quality of everything that I want. I absolutely am budgeting and I mean, that's been our entire life. I have to do that. And I praise the Lord for that. But if God opens up a way in the future for our budget to be able to increase, then I will gladly spend that extra money getting better quality things. I think food is very important. I think food is how we nourish our bodies. And there is nothing wrong if you have the means to do so to increase your grocery budget. So if this year you've gone from a grocery budget of $1,000 up to $1,500 and you're stressing about that, and yet your family can actually afford it, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. There's no reason that you have to cut down. In fact, we scrimp and save in other areas so that we can spend more on our groceries. We actually choose to allocate more money to that because we do think it's an important thing. So we have to recognize that too. There might be some sacrifices that you're making this year so that you can still buy the foods that you want to buy. But guess what? Food is how we're nourishing our families. It's how we have strength and vitality to greet the day. And so we have to approach this thinking like that. The ultimate goal is not to just get the lowest possible grocery budget that we can. The goal is to nourish and feed our families well with the resources that God has given us today. Now, that brings up the reverse topic. What if you are really struggling financially? What if, like us this year, you're realizing you have to actually cut back? We don't have extra money for our grocery budget this year. I'm not pumping it up. In fact, we're looking for ways to save money. Anybody else, right? And so when I'm looking at my grocery budget, I have actually had to be very realistic, and I've had to actually change somewhat of what we're buying a bit. So on Instagram yesterday, I did a walkthrough of our Azure standard pickup for the month. So Azure is like a co-op basically, where we get a good 80 to 90%. We spend a good 80 to 90% of our grocery budget every month at Azure. It can vary 70 to 90%, kind of just depending on what we need that month. And then the rest is we get milk and eggs from a local farm, and we do produce locally. Almost everything else we're trying to buy through Azure. But again, I used to get all of my butter. I used to get everything through Azure because the quality is fantastic. Everything about it's fantastic. This year, I have been getting Costco generic butter. I'm not even buying grass-fed butter right now because it's not in the budget. And that's absolutely okay. Even though those of you who are listening who really care about food quality, I know that grass-fed butter is way better. I know that making my own butter would be the ultimate from local raw milk from a local farm. We don't get enough cream. We can't afford enough cream. Like, I'm doing the best I can with what I have, and I'm praising the Lord through that. So when I was sharing my Azure drop yesterday, I was sharing that I had gotten a 25-pound bag of organic cane sugar. I'm very thankful that I can still get organic. It's way better than like the super bleached processed stuff that you can just pick up at Walmart. But again, if that's what you can afford, praise God for it. But I was sharing that we've got Christmas coming up and we do a lot of holiday baking. We're making sugar cookies and cinnamon rolls. And while I grind my own grains for most of our stuff, we love using natural sweeteners. There are times, especially around the holidays with hospitality, that we're making some white flour, white sugar stuff. So I also shared in the video that I have actually been using white sugar a lot more this year because it's so much more affordable than maple syrup, raw honey, sucanat. Those have risen in price as well. And there's just, when push comes to shove, I have to be really realistic with my grocery budget. And I had somebody respond back and say, I thought it was only me. I thought I was the only one having to kind of go to like sugar. And she kind of said it like it's this, it's this dirty thing. Like, oh no, I have to use more sugar, because so many of us want to care for our families really well. We so want to be making healthy things and healthy choices and nourishing our families well. That's absolutely what I desire as a mom of 7 who cares for this family. That's what I want. So it can feel like, oh, I have to go back to sugar. I have to do this. And at the same time, we have to hold our thankfulness to the Lord, taking everything into the account. So it would be unwise and it would be sinful of me to continue to spend money above and beyond our grocery budget that Jason and I have set, because I was holding so tightly to this ideal that no white sugar shall ever pass my child's lips. That would be sinful. It would be sinful compared to using the sugar that God has provided that I can fit into my budget, still doing what I can because I buy it in a 25-pound bag. I'm actually able to get the organic sugar that is a bit better than what you're going to get at Walmart. And so I'm able to make that compromise, and I'm able to thank the Lord for that, and also completely know that God is 100% in control. And so me using that white sugar is not what is going to contribute or, be the downfall of someone's health, because God is in control. He's in control of everything. And if I am being wise, if I'm following where his leading is, then he is going to be faithful in that as well. Now, if I'm in a season where God has convicted me, which has happened before, that I need to really buckle down and work on my family's health, I went on a serious journey of cutting out processed foods, of realizing a lot of what we eat is really full of a lot of junk. And I felt very convicted that I do need to take my family's health seriously. And that is my responsibility. So I'm going to work on cutting things out. Well, in that situation, I am pleasing the Lord by following that conviction, by recognizing that that is where God is leading me. But we have to hold this in balance. We have to have that tension. We have to realize that if God has given you a very real and present budget, that you are absolutely honoring the Lord when you are honoring the Lord in that, and not being unwise and not being fearful and not feeling like we have to judge every little morsel that's crossing our lips. We hold that intention with trusting the Lord. Okay, so this reminds me really fast before we get to the Q&A. This reminds me of something that Anna, let me find her handle. It's feminine. Okay, so Anna Lees is on Instagram. She has a Instagram called feminine_not_feminist. Feminine, not feminist. So she was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, where she was talking about that they have a very strict grocery budget right now because they are saving to buy a house. And she was sharing a little bit that her and her husband don't necessarily always see eye to eye on food quality. So there's some things that maybe she personally would like to spend a little bit more on in certain areas, but her husband has kind of set this budget. And she was talking about how, some people were criticizing her for buying white flour or white sugar or whatever it is, or not everything organic or not everything grass fed. And she's like, yeah, I would love to buy all super high quality meat, but she's like, but I can't. And that's how we are. I absolutely cannot buy all the quality of things that I want to buy. We can't do, doesn't fit in the budget. So she had some people criticizing her for this, that she's not eating like perfect enough, which social media is just can be so toxic. You can't win it anyway. If you talk about anything grass fed, people say, you don't have to eat that. It just gets a little crazy. But she had some people criticizing, and she said, you know what? Here's the deal. She said, I am honoring my husband by sticking in this grocery budget that he has requested. I'm honoring my family by doing what is wise in this season. It's not all the highest quality stuff that I want to get. And yet, she said, I very much believe that when you sit down and you're praying over your food and you're asking God to bless this food to your body, she said, I don't think those are just empty words. I think that God is literally will bless that food to your body. You could, if all you had was just white flour rolls to live off of the rest of your life, God will bless that if you are doing it in Him, if you are doing it in the right way. And God might be asking you to make some changes, but you're stubbornly deciding to eat McDonald's 3 times a day. Yeah, maybe that is the sinful option. But if it's all you have access to, if it's all you have, and you're praising the Lord through that and praising Him for your daily food, God will bless that. And so we have to hold all of that in tension. And it is hard. It's hard for those of us who are the moms, the wives, the runners of our households, because we want to make wise decisions. We want to nourish our families well. And when push comes to shove and we don't have the budget to do so, it can feel really hard. So I want to encourage you, if you're having to make some tough decisions this year, if you're having to downgrade your quality, not quite have the things that you want, I've had to do that a lot this year. There's a lot of things that I used to be able to be very like only buy organic on certain things. And a lot of that has changed this year for us. And I am praising the Lord still all the way, because what my firm belief is that we need to do the best we can with what we have, meaning the resources God has given us, the time that God has given us. We do the best we can with what we have, and we trust the Lord with the rest. We're going to trust the Lord with the rest, because everything in our life we can't control. There's nothing that we truly have control over. And especially when you start looking into healthy eating, cooking from scratch, it can unlock this whole new like world of fear. And a lot of times people will ask, because I teach about cooking from scratch and how to up level your nutrition and do it in simple ways and cost effective ways. And people will say, oh, but Jamie, that butter you're using right there is not grass fed. Like as if that undoes all the other work that I'm doing. And the thing is, I know the best form of butter to buy. I can't afford it. And that's okay. I'm going to do the best I can with what I have. And I'm going to trust the Lord with the rest. So doing the best I can means I've learned how to grind my own grains. So we make a lot of treats at home. We make a lot of great, good quality, nutritious stuff. And sometimes there's some white sugar in there. Okay. And we're going to praise the Lord through that. So I'm talking to you right now, you who feels discouraged, you who feels like you're having to cut corners, you're having to cut costs, and you're feeling frustrated. We trust the Lord in the process, and we trust the Lord and we thank the Lord for full bellies, whether or not it's the highest quality everything all around or it's your Walmart butter. We're going to trust the Lord in that. All right. So that's my really, really, really long pep talk as we get into the questions. Okay. All right. So let's just cover a few of these bulk food staples that you keep around the house. All right. So basically one of the secrets that has made it so that I can actually stick in the grocery budget that I do and be able to have higher quality things when I can, is we buy a lot of things in bulk. So if you guys are watching on the video, you can see this is the top of my cookbook. You guys can see like all these bulk. This is my actual pantry right here. All of these jars. This is all the bulk foods that we cook out of. So people often are like, what do you actually cook? So one of the things that we've made a big move away from is kind of trying to move away from anything that is not everything that's processed, because we're not making 100% of everything, but trying to move away from things that are more processed, because the least processed it is, the cheaper it's going to be, the healthier it's going to be. And then trying to buy things in 25-pound bags. So yes, I have a 25-pound bag of sugar that just came yesterday. That's going to last me a really, really, really long time. But the price per pound is cheap enough that it allows me to get the higher quality sugar. And when you play that out over many different bags of things, it makes a big difference. So dried beans, for example, I used to always just buy cans of beans. Well, then you start to notice that there's a lot of extra junk that can be in canned food. Then you're thinking, well, I'd like to buy the organic ones. All of a sudden that can has like quadrupled in price. And I mean, cans of beans can be like $1.50, almost like $2 if you're looking for organic brands. And all of a sudden that adds a significant amount of money to your grocery list. Versus what I do now is I buy 25-pound bags of dried beans, and the cost per pound is just absolutely outstanding. So the amount I'm saving on beans for my family over the year is a lot, and the quality is higher. The taste is better. It's fresher. You have that, and then you play that out over 40 things in my pantry, and all of a sudden you can save some really significant money. If I bought everything packaged at the store, if I was buying cans of beans, if I was buying, I make a lot of our bread. If I was buying all of these equivalents, there's no way that I could ever fit in the grocery budget that we do for our family, which is a fairly modest budget. So the things that I stock, I'm going to go ahead and just cover this. I have this in volume 1 of my cookbook series. I have several chapters at the beginning that like give you all the teaching of having a bulk pantry and cooking like this. And I've got a couple chapters that cover ingredients. So I pulled this out so that I could kind of off the top of my head share things. Okay, so some of the biggest, first of all, is grains. So we can talk about grains a little bit, but I know people are very, very different in what kinds of grains and if you're gluten-free and if you grind grains, all that. So I'll just touch on that. But other than that, what we stock in our pantry is healthy oils. So oils are one of those that I will spend more on to have, and then I can cut back in other areas so that I can have healthier oils. I think healthy oils, what you're cooking with, the fats you're using in your kitchen make a really, really big difference. So I will spend more on those and spend less in other areas. Healthy sweeteners. So that's another big one. We do have several healthy sweeteners that we use. But like I said, we are cooking with some more white sugar this year too, in praising God. Okay, so here's some random things that we keep. I keep on hand chia seeds. So we love chia seeds. Chia seeds can be expensive, but when you buy even like a 2-pound bag, it's going to last a really long time. And we use it sparingly. So we do like overnight oats with chia seeds. We'll put chia seeds in oatmeal sometimes. There's a lot of kind of superfood stuff you can do with chia seeds. Vanilla extract, real vanilla extract. I make my own, makes it very, very, very affordable. Baking powder, we bake a lot, so I keep a lot of baking powder on hand. Butter. So through the 80s and 90s, we were really told that butter was horrible for us and you needed to switch to margarine, which is hydrogenated oils. Margarine is absolutely horrifyingly terrible for your health. Margarine is one that I would absolutely kick out of the house immediately. And yes, absolutely substitute with butter, which so many of us know now. But for years, we were so terrified of butter. Butter is actually the much healthier way to go. So we use a lot of butter in this house. So healthy oils, everybody's kind of got favorite oils that they use. But basically you want to go for non-hydrogenated oils. And there's a few that kind of stand out as better. We use a lot of coconut oil. Coconut oil is very, very affordable. It has gotten so common too. So we can get a huge gallon of coconut oil from Azure. I think it's like $15 or $17, and that big gallon will last a really, really long time. So it's an absolutely fantastic price. So we use coconut oil for a lot of stuff. We get the extra virgin coconut oil we get from Azure has hardly any taste. There are some coconut oils that are so coconut that I can't do them. But the extra virgin ones tend to be like, I feel like it's tasteless, but we've been using coconut oil for a lot of years. If you try it and you've never had it, maybe you would think that, but you can fry with coconut oil. You can bake with it. We use coconut oil in a lot of stuff. We also use extra virgin olive oil. That one has increased in price a lot this last year. So I have actually been using more avocado oil. So what's funny is a few years ago, those prices were swapped. I never bought avocado oil because it was so expensive, and I would only buy olive oil. That has definitely switched for me this year. And so I buy avocado oil by the gallon from Azure. And that's what I use in the majority of my cooking. So you can use coconut oil, but for the majority of our year, our coconut oil is in a solid state. And then you just have the extra step of having to microwave it and stuff. But I use, for most of my baking, I use avocado oil. Avocado oil has a high smoke point, so you can bake with it, you can fry with it. So we use it for and I make homemade mayonnaise with it. We really love avocado oil. So those are my 3 main oils that I use: coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil. You just want to make sure that they're from a good source. And yeah, those are the ones personally that we love. So some oils and fats to avoid: corn, canola, soybean, safflower, highly processed seed oils like sunflower, margarine, vegetable shortening, Crisco. You really want to avoid those. Those are some big ones that I would personally put as of more importance than other things. We also carry bulk spices. So I've started buying bulk spices in 4 and 8 ounce packets from places like Azure. You can also, a lot of natural stores or bulk food stores. If you have a Winco in your area, they have bulk spices. You can get spices for a very, very, very good price. And spices, when you are starting to cook from scratch, especially, you need a lot of spices to flavor your food. And so we go through spices and herbs a lot. And when you're buying them in the little containers, I mean, now you can walk in and it's $5, $6, $8, $10 for a little spice container. And for $6, you can get a pound or half a pound in the bulk. And so converting to bulk spices is really, really fantastic. I would say the next time you run out of an item, just buy the bulk equivalent. And then the next time, and half the time, I bought 4 ounces of pumpkin pie spice and 4 ounces of cinnamon, which is like this little packet. It's a decent amount. And it was I think it was $6 for each, but that will refill my jars many times over. So right there, you've got some really good cost savings. And I'm also getting them from Azure. They're organic, they're better quality. So I'm saving money and getting better quality than I could if I just walked into Walmart even. Salt. We buy our salt in bulk from Redmond. Redmond's real salt is our favorite salt ever. It is much more expensive, but it's also very, very healthy. We actually really do need salt, especially when you're cooking from scratch. You often do not get enough salt. And so salt is really important, but Redmond sea salt can be very expensive. So we buy it in 25-pound bags. It lasts us over a year for that 25-pound bag. And so it is actually well worth the cost then at that point. And that's one way that I'm able to keep it more affordable, is by buying it in bulk. All right, cocoa powder, yeast. We do raw honey, maple syrup, succinate, granulated honey. Those are my 4 main natural sweeteners that I use. Other people like coconut sugar. I hate it. People use palm sugar. Those are just not my favorites. These are the 4 that I personally use. And then as far as grains go, I do keep all-purpose white flour on hand for baking stuff. And then I grind my own grains. So I use spelt mostly. I love einkorn, if you've ever heard of einkorn, but einkorn is just too expensive for our family right now. So I used to buy small amounts of einkorn to use certain things with, and I just haven't been buying it at all because it's just too expensive. I do love it though. We need some more growers in the US so that it can come down in price maybe a bit. Those are my main that I use. We use some others, like I'll use buckwheat a little bit, millet, amaranth, and I buy those in smaller quantities. And then we keep on hand brown basmati rice. That's our favorite rice. We do black beans and pinto beans and white navy beans. Those are the 3 we keep on hand. Quinoa, barley. There's a few more probably that I'm not. We buy like lentils. I buy nuts in bulk, which just for me means buying them in 5-pound bags, but it decreases the price a bit. We buy from Azure. I love walnuts for baking with. I buy like the baker's pieces so that they're already like chopped into pieces. And those are cheaper than the whole walnut, which I don't care anyway, because I'm always chopping them up and putting them in stuff. So I think you can really get creative in how how you're approaching some of these things. There's some ways that you can kind of say, oh, I don't care if they're chopped up. Okay, I'm going to save some money. A question that I get asked a lot is, how do you get to this point where you're buying in bulk? Because when I show my bulk food hauls, people say, how do you afford that? They assume that it must cost me a lot more to buy in bulk. And I just laugh because I'm like, this is literally the reason I do this, is this is the only way that I could afford to feed my family the way that I do, is by buying in bulk. So the thing is, though, what we do, like I just said, 70 to 90% of our grocery budget every month goes to our bulk purchases. So what that means, though, is I am only buying 10 items a month in that bulk order, but I'm buying enough that I don't, like last month, I bought a 25-pound bag of popcorn, our favorite popcorn in the world. We love it. I bought a 25-pound bag of that. I won't have to buy that for 6 months. So that's not, I'm not buying a pound of popcorn every month. So I'm not going to the grocery store and loading up my cart with 2 pounds of black beans, 1 pound of popcorn, 2 pounds of the wheat, or a couple cans of your beans, whatever you're getting. I am buying in bulk. And then next month, I'm turning my attention to other bulk items. So when you're first starting out, that can be very difficult because you're not necessarily all of a sudden the next month able to switch to buying 10 bulk items, because then you wouldn't have enough food on hand. So when I first got started, I just did it really slowly. I didn't know how to cook a lot of this stuff, so I did it really slowly. The first thing I always recommend people start with is dried beans. Dried beans are so easy. Throw them in your crock pot, throw them in an Instant Pot. You could do them on the stove. Instant Pot's my favorite for beans. You throw them in and they're done in half an hour, 40 minutes. And so dried beans are fantastic because they're so simple and easy to make, and you're instantly going to save money. Instantly. Even if you're just buying 2 pounds of dried beans at once, you are absolutely 100% going to save money. So beans are a great place to start. If you go through, we do a lot of Mexican in our house. So we go through a lot of rice and beans, especially with 6 sons. And my daughter eats a lot too. But those boys, the older these boys get, they eat a lot of food. And so rice and beans, but do them in a healthy way. We buy brown basmati rice. If you go to Whole Foods and you look their brown basmati rice, it is $10 for 2 pounds or $12 for 2 pounds, something insane that I could never buy. That's not something that I could have in my budget because we'll cook a couple of pounds at once. And so me being able to buy it in 25-pound bags makes a really big difference. So when people ask that, isn't it more expensive? I'm like, no, this is what saves money. So work on changing out maybe one thing at a time, and then you can get that 25-pound bag of beans, which is actually a really affordable price, and slowly you can start shifting it over. It's going to take a while to get into that rhythm, but once you do, it clicks. Now, I will also tell you, we lived in our RV for 2 years while we were traveling around the United States. It was a very small RV for our family of 8 at the time, and I still cooked this way. So we did our monthly Azure orders that we'd pick up all across the country. I've been to probably half the Azure drops in the country. No, not really. There's hundreds. We've been to a lot of them though. And I would buy 25-pound bags of spelt and keep them in 2 little 2.5-gallon buckets. And then everything else I just bought in 5 pounds. And that was my pantry. That's what I had. I didn't have the variety that I have now here back in a house again. But I'd buy 5 pounds of dried beans. I would buy a couple of pounds of succulent. I would buy the 12-pound thing of honey still because we would go through it at such a good rate. So there's absolutely things, even in a very small house, even in very small space, there are absolutely things that you can do this way. So don't let that stop you. And when you get into the habit of it, it definitely saves you a lot more money. All right. Next question is, by shopping bulk, how do you meal plan? So I do not rifle through cookbooks and come up with a brand new meal plan every week and then go grocery shop off that meal plan. If that works for you, that's fine. But I also think that leads to significantly higher grocery prices. So what I do, and I have been doing this for a lot of years. So if you feel like you don't have a whole litany of your family favorite recipes, that's okay. Give it time. I have right here, this cookbook is my family favorite recipes. This is what I cook out of every single week. These are the real recipes I'm making for my family. I had all of these handwritten or printed with notes all over them. I had my own little binder of my stuff. Now I'm so fortunate to have it in such a pretty nice edition because this is what my kids cook out of. I'm like, go grab my cookbook. This is not my personal copy. This is a copy that I just grabbed from our store because my personal copy has been spilled on. It's got pages. Like, we use it a lot. So what I have done is I've just really developed kind of my repertoire of recipes that my family loves every week. And so those are the bulk items that I stock. So I don't actually have to meal plan hardly ever because I know our family favorite recipes. I keep the ingredients for those on hand. We keep it really simple. And I don't cook super fancy things. I cook pretty down to earth, comfort food type of things, but with a healthy from scratch spin, right? Like, you can make really amazing biscuits and gravy that are from scratch that are actually really healthy for you. So you can make these, we do lasagna all the time, but we do it from scratch and we are using healthy ingredients. And so, that's another one is we buy pasta and lasagna noodles from Azure. I do buy those in bulk as well. We buy like a big box of lasagna noodles, then they last forever and you're getting higher quality for a cheaper price. And if you don't have Azure, there are other places that you can buy in bulk as well. A lot of local communities will have bulk food stores, things like that. What I encourage you is to kind of develop those recipes that I keep the things on hand. When I go to Costco, I know the things to throw in my cart because those are the things that I'm going through every week. And I often do not have a written meal plan in mind other than I kind of know what I'm thinking about for the week. So maybe I'll sit down and like rattle off a few things that I want to get made for the week because I've already kind of got that in mind, right? Does that make sense? So that's what I really do. And it's kind of reverse meal planning in that way. Like, I'm looking at what we have in the pantry, I'm looking at what we have stocked, and I'm making my meal plan out of that. So I actually think having a bulk pantry makes your meal planning the simplest thing in the world. I think it absolutely just simplifies things. At a moment's notice, I could go pull stuff out of the freezer and the pantry for like 15 different meals without even thinking about it. So if you are if you're struggling with that process, with meal planning, with feeling like you put together a meal plan and then you go to the grocery store and everything's so expensive, then really start working on what are those family favorite recipes of yours that are fairly inexpensive. Like, we don't have like shrimp all the time. We would love to eat more fish, but I also don't really want to get farm raised fish. And so we don't eat a lot of fish right now because it's not in the budget, and that's okay. So let's see what else. What is a substitute for Crisco? Okay, we'll end on this one. What is a substitute for Crisco? So some of you are going to be making a lot of pies this next month, or maybe you already have with Thanksgiving. Butter, you can absolutely make pie crust with butter. It's a lot harder though, and butter can kind of fall flat sometimes. So Crisco is what most of us use, but it is vegetable shortening. Like, it is terrible for you. And you know what? If you're going to use it every once in a while and you're fine with that, that's totally fine. We don't use Crisco though, personally. So what we use lard. Lard is what your great grandmother's pie recipes would 100% all have been based off of. Animal fats are not bad for you. And that's what absolutely we've been told. People freak out and go, lard. Animal fats are actually the fats that we should be using. They're so much more nourishing. So in fact, I have like a 15-pound bag of pig fat in my outside fridge that I just got. I have been looking. So lard can be very, very expensive, especially a good quality lard. It can be very expensive. And so I've been looking, if you can render it yourself, you can do it way cheaper. So I've been looking for a place to get pig fat and pork fat. I don't know, whatever you call it. And we have a friend who, her stepdad is a butcher. And so he happened to be at a party and I said, hey, do you guys have pig fat? I'd really like to be able to get some pig fat. Like, do you sell it? And he was like, oh, I can get you some. And so he got me this huge giant bag of pig fat. And I'm so happy because the amount of lard it's going to make will last me a very long time. And I have lots of pies to make this month for Christmas. And so it's very, very easy to render yourself. You basically just put it in a crock pot and cook it down all day. And then you kind of like siphon off the parts that come out of it, like the crispy bits that float to the top. And then that's it. And then it hardens into lard. It's absolutely amazing. It's the best thing for pies. It's the absolute best replacement for Crisco. You can replace Crisco with coconut oil or butter, but lard is going to give that right fat consistency, the right texture. everything. You also can use tallow. I have tallow. I have homemade tallow in my pantry right now. That's what I use for my pies for Thanksgiving, but it doesn't taste quite as good. Lard is like tasteless. I love it. But you can also fry with lard, lard and tallow. So lard comes from pigs. Tallow comes from cows. So they're actually amazing. Tallow is amazing for your skin. Anyway, all of these things, like we have been lied to by the food industry that we need all these processed foods when the foods that God has just created that people have been eating for thousands of years, guess what, are actually what we should be eating. All right. So, but again, this all takes into preference, your personal preference, your personal family. If your husband loves pies and it's one of the greatest blessings for him on Thanksgiving and Christmas when you bake him pies and he will not touch lard and he wants Crisco the way his mother made them, then you know what? Bless your husband this month with Crisco in his stocking, in his pies. Praise the Lord for that and just entrust him in that and make different choices in other areas, make other wise choices in different areas, because the crux of the matter is, even if I had an unlimited budget, I still couldn't do everything perfect. We live in a fallen world. Things are not perfect. Sin has touched our food industry, believe it or not, like it has touched everything else. And I don't have unlimited time. I don't have unlimited resources. I don't have access to everything perfect all the time. And so we make the best choices that we can with what we have in that moment, and we trust the Lord for the rest. I do think there's lots of tips and tricks and things that we can do, lots of ways that we can decrease. I think the more that you can learn to cook from scratch, the better your food's gonna be, and way better grocery budget. Like if you're trying to buy natural items right now, if you're trying to buy gluten-free items in the store, you're probably really, really hurting. So learning how to make granola bars. Let's talk about granola bars, you guys. Granola bars are terrible, okay? They're wonderful because they're so easy. Throw them in, your kids' lunches, give them to your husband, take them out on snacks. Like we love granola bars, but to buy any sort of granola bar that's even like half healthy is like $3 a bar. And we have a family of 9. I cannot buy bars in the store. And even the ones that are like kind of healthy or like the label is like acts like it's natural, a lot of times they're absolute junk, like just complete junk. And that's fine. If you get them and you love them, if you get Kind bars and you love them, that's fine, but they're junk food, right? So learn how to make your own granola bars. They're so easy to make. Volume 1 of my cookbook has my personal favorite granola bar recipe that you can kind of tweak. We have these cheap little silicone granola bar molds that we got off Amazon. They're like $6. And we do, like, my kids love to make them because all you do is you mix it up and put them in the molds to bake. And you have amazing granola bars that, like, the quality with using just real oats, oats we keep on in bulk, real oats, nuts. You can put I love doing dried cherries or cranberries, or you could do chocolate chips, pumpkin seeds. You can totally play with them and have the most amazing. And we do ours with raw honey. Ours are sweetened with raw honey. You could do maple syrup in them. You can do so many fun things, and you have the most incredible tasting granola bars that were significantly cheaper and so beyond anything that I could ever buy in the store. And they're really simple. So I'm not advocating that you need to all of a sudden spend every day of your entire life in the kitchen. I don't do that. And people assume, you spend 6 hours a day in the kitchen. And I don't, because I make really simple things. We make a lot of loaded muffins. Muffins take me maybe 10 minutes to make because muffins are a quick bread. So all you have to do is mix them in the bowl and you put them in the muffin tins to bake. So when you get into the habit, first time you make it, you're like, oh, what's this recipe? How do I make it? It takes more brain power. Once you know how to make it, I could walk out there in 3 seconds, pull the ingredients to make blueberry muffins and have them in the oven within 10 minutes. It'd be fast, simple, easy, and I just have the ingredients on hand. That's what makes it possible, because I've put the work in. It makes it, and I'm using freshly ground spelt, so the flour in them is amazing. Sweeten them with some raw honey or maybe some cane sugar. Right now, that's fine. We're making so much of our stuff from scratch that I'm not really fussed if my kids have a little bit of cane sugar. Really not the worst thing in the world, for sure. I'm more concerned about high fructose corn syrup that's loaded in everything. All of the dyes, all of the, I'm more concerned about those things. If we're going to have a little bit of sugar in our diet from some of our home baked goods, that's fine. And guess what? I make homemade cinnamon rolls for Christmas morning. They are white flour, white sugar cinnamon rolls. And yes, you absolutely can make them with alternative sweeteners, natural sweeteners. You can make them with spelt. I have done it before. But for Christmas morning, we make the white flour, white sugar ones, and we thank the Lord for it, right? Right? But for some reason, when it comes to like, we'll easily buy cinnamon rolls out. We'll easily buy like the Annie's. The Annie's cinnamon rolls are the best ones. Costco has them every year. Those are the best ones if you're going to buy them, but they're also expensive. But guess what? They're loaded with junk. So then when it comes to like making our own stuff, we act like, well, then I can't use the sugar. But then we'll go buy the cinnamon rolls or we'll buy the donuts at the store. Make homemade donuts. You can totally make them. So that is my soapbox for you. Okay. So here's my recommendations. Start to learn how to make some family favorites from scratch. So take a look at what you're spending right now. Take a look at your grocery budget. I would venture to guess that those of us who have kids, like 99% of the problem in your cart at the grocery store are snacks. Trying to find healthy snacks, trying to figure out how to afford healthy snacks, and then all of the processed snacks. If it's a snack, it's processed, right? Like it's been put through many processes. It's going to be much more expensive. So if I was buying all of our snacks for our kids, I have no idea how I would afford it. But we make homemade muffins. We make them really simple. We'll do granola bars. The older my kids get now, so we have twin 10-year-olds. They're going to turn 11 this month. We have twin 8-year-olds, and we have my 6-year-old. All three of them know how to make a bunch of recipes in my cookbook. So all the time they'll be like, Mom, can I make granola bars? Because they're hungry and they want a snack. Absolutely, you can go make some granola bars. I'm not doing all of this snack cooking. If they want some muffins, or they'll do homemade pancakes for breakfast all the time. And they're like, Mom, can I do pancakes for breakfast? Because they're motivated. They want the pancakes. Absolutely go make those pancakes. So you can enlist your kids for sure, get their help, start teaching them how to make these fun things. Let them make oatmeal cookies when they want them. Let them have that fun doing that. And you don't have to have all these snacks on hand all the time. We don't buy snacks. We just make them. And it's not as hard. It's not as laborious as you think it is, especially when you get into the habit. You don't want to jump in this week and say, I'm going to make 20 new snacks I've never made. You want to jump in and try one thing. And as you get that down, you try the next thing, and so on and so forth. You kind of build on top of it, right? All right. So that's my encouragement for you. If you guys want to chat more about this, if you have more topics within this, we kind of just barely scratched the surface. If you're on YouTube, please comment below. You're welcome to ask your questions or come find me over on Instagram. My Instagram handle is just my name, Jamie Balmain. So you can come find me and we can chat more about it. All right. I did want to let you know, since our Finding Joy bookstore is open through December 8th, if you're watching this before the 8th, that we do have my cookbooks in stock now that I've mentioned them several times. So we have got here volume 1, Learn How to Cook from a Bulk Pantry. It's half guide and half recipes. So the first half is teaching you, everything we talked about today. It's going even more in depth. Like it gives you all the benefits of building a bulk pantry, how you store everything, all the questions you're thinking right now. How do I get started? What are the cost benefits? All of that is in there. And then it is over 100 of our family favorite recipes. These are the ones that I'm honestly just cooking week in and week out. It's got baking recipes. You don't have to grind your own grains, but I will probably try to convince you that you should. You don't have to grind your own grains. You can use whatever flour you want. You can buy flour from the store. I will tell you the best kinds to look for. What's more affordable, what's kind of the more advanced option. We've got baking recipes, we've got dinner recipes, we've got desserts, homemade bagels, homemade donuts, homemade cinnamon rolls. All of that is in this cookbook. So go check it out, findingjoybookstore.com. My second one, I wanted to mention this because this is a major cost saver right here. Buy this cookbook and within a month, you're going to have saved the money that it costs to buy it. Both of these. It's from scratch pantry staples, 119 homemade essentials for every household. Or for every kitchen. So it's teaching you how to make homemade ketchup, homemade mayonnaise. You guys, natural mayonnaise right now, I don't know what it is. All the mayonnaise companies got together and decided to jack up their prices all together. Natural mayonnaises right now are so like $10 for a little tiny thing. I cannot afford that. Guess what? Make your own for like cents on the dollar. And it takes 2 minutes. Homemade mayonnaise is so easy. So easy, okay? You can make homemade ketchup. You can make homemade pickles. You can make your own pancake mix and your own Bisquick mix. So many incredible things that you can make. And I would say people get overwhelmed. Like, I just can't spend all the time in the kitchen. A good 80% at least of the recipes in this cookbook take 5 minutes or less. Make homemade ketchup, 5 minutes or less. Most of them you just blend together or mix together. It's so easy. So this has over 119 recipes that are our family favorite recipes for this. For from scratch pantry staples. And this will save you so much money. So much money. And you're able to then just use all of your bulk items you have on hand. Like I never have to worry if I run out of mayonnaise or ketchup because I just have those ingredients in the pantry. I can whip them up. In fact, I think it's way more convenient than being like, oh, we're having hamburgers tonight and I forgot that we don't have ketchup and can you run to the store and get them? Nope. We have everything on hand to just whip up some new ketchup. It's amazing. Okay. I will be done. I just get really excited. I mean, honestly, the reason I wrote this cookbook series is because of so many questions like these ones today, of trying to share how we've done this and really just the 10 years of learning that has gone into our kitchen. I'm not perfect. I'm just a mom. I'm not a professional chef. I am learning how to do this all in my own kitchen and passing that all along here in this really foundational series to teach you how to do all this. I've never seen a cookbook series do this before, and we've put everything in it. Also, this second guide also has it's half teaching at the beginning. So it's going to teach you all the different ingredients. What's vinegar? Where do you get it? You know, what are the containers you use? How long do things last? All of that. All right, ladies. Well, I'm going to be done now. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to check out our sponsor for today's episode. We have got the Homemaker's Friend Daily Planner. Just go to homemakersfriend.com. You can use my coupon code PLANNER, PLANNER at checkout for an additional $3 off this already highly affordable planner. Just go to homemakersfriend.com. Okay, ladies, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you guys back here next week for the next episode.